You are listening to episode 170 of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. Welcome to the Peaceful Mind Podcast, a place for creating the peace of mind you need to be the best mom you are created by God to be. If you want to bring more balance, more joy, and more peace to your motherhood, this is the place for you. I'm your host, certified life coach and Catholic mom, Danielle Tienel. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Now, I want you to know that I'm always looking to dedicate these episodes to busy moms who are looking for practical advice and tips and insights, and also some spiritual inspiration that will help navigate the challenges and joys of motherhood. So if you are new here, welcome. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing the art, per se, of reinventing ourselves and the power we have to change our personality traits. So when we reinvent ourselves, I want to focus in on the personality traits that we have that we may be believing is like innate, concrete, cemented in forever. And hopefully that I'm able to show you that they're more malleable than you were believing prior to listening to this today. So many of us believe that our personalities are fixed, right? That being a perfectionist or a pessimist, for example, is just who we are. But that is not true. We all have the ability to adapt and change, and like I said earlier, be malleable. And I want to share with you some of the strategies that can help you reinvent yourself. Now, you might not be in a place right now where you want to reinvent yourself, you like how you are. And for those who on the other end are believing that and think that about themselves, I'm saying that's amazing. I want to just give you this information that maybe you can tuck away, that there might be a time in life, or life might, throw you a circumstance or a challenge that has you revealing a part of you that maybe you do want to change. Or right now you are thinking yes, this aspect, I wish it was different about myself. And maybe you're thinking that it would be impossible to change. Like I mentioned before, the perfectionist, that came up for an example that is totally personal to me, that I literally did believe that that was just the way I was, the way I am, the way I was born, it's all I ever knew. And I have reinvented myself to not be a perfectionist. And so I want us to first start out by talking about the steps and what we need to do in order to reinvent ourselves. And the first one is not going to be a surprise here, because it seems to be an important step in a lot of the things that I help you have more peace of mind about. And that is the importance of self-awareness. Because to make any meaningful change in our lives, we need to have a clear understanding of who we are, our strengths, and the areas of which we might need improvement. And this does require an honest and ongoing self-assessment, as well as that willingness to listen to feedback, maybe from yourself, but others. That can also be super helpful. But really, when it comes to the self-awareness part, what I want to hone in is that we are capable of mass amounts of change. Let that just kind of sink in for a little bit. We are capable of mass amounts of change. And if there is any part of your personality that is not serving you right now, I want you to know that you have the ability to change it. You do have the ability to change it. And that first begins with getting really self-aware. Because once we have this self-awareness, we can then start to identify those personality traits that might be holding you back. So for example, maybe your perfectionism is preventing you from taking risks or starting new projects or keeping you striving and just perpetually going after something on and on and on. And perhaps if you lean towards the pessimist kind of mindset, maybe that this is right now affecting your relationships with your loved ones. And maybe your pessimism is keeping you from enjoying your life or motherhood right now. Now, once you have identified, and I just gave perfectionism, pessimism as an example, but maybe you are someone who tends to deflect when somebody gives you a compliment. And that is a personality trait that you have been experiencing in your life. And you decide, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be someone who welcomes in compliments and receives them. Maybe you're someone who constantly questions your decisions. And you take lots of time to gather all the information and then wonder if you're going to make the right one. And then when you do decide, you question if it was the right one. And maybe that's a personality trait that you are just ready to be done with. Maybe you want to step in to be the person who is a strong and quick decision maker. So now that we've identified some of the traits that you could, focus on, and hopefully in your own mind, you have kind of come up with one or some, now you can focus on changing them. And one powerful technique for doing this is to adopt some new habits and practices that will help you reshape your thought patterns and behavior. Again, not a surprise to hear this being my advice, because reshaping our thought patterns is everything. Mostly what you hear me teach about here is the impact of our mind and the importance of our thoughts as being the originator for all of the results we produce. So this is why we want to be able to reframe our thought patterns, because it's the old thought patterns that you have that created you with the trait of being a perfectionist or pessimist or a compliment deflector or a constant decision questioner. Okay? So let's just say that you want to become less of a perfectionist. We want to now reframe our thoughts to be setting more realistic goals for ourselves. Some knowing that perfectionism and having something perfect isn't really this goal that you want to have anymore. So now this is where you're going to have to welcome in where you focus and congratulate yourself for making any kind of progress along the way. And you make the fact that you just completed something, even if it was at B- level, that is your new goal. Or if you want to be less pessimistic, you could practice gratitude daily and focus on the positive aspects of your life. You could make this a new habit, and you for sure could reinvent this part of your personality. And remember that reinventing yourself is a journey. And it takes time and effort and patience. It's important to be compassionate and patient with ourselves as you work on making the changes. And don't forget to seek support from your faith for sure. Check in with God. Talk to Him about the things that you would like to change about yourself. Help Him to ask Him to open your eyes to see what are some steps that you can do to reach this goal of kind of tweaking our personality type, we could say, and seek it from friends. Ask them about it, and family. Our faith can be such a powerful source of inspiration and strength in this process of reinvention. And it teaches us that we're never alone, right? In our struggles, and that with God's help, you can overcome any obstacles. So pray on it, and participating in the sacraments that also helps you with grace and strength you need to make the changes in your life. And let's just talk about the saints here for a second, right? They're such great examples of individuals who overcame challenges and underwent incredible personal transformations. I think we could look to them and see they probably had some personalities traits that were changed and transformed as their journey towards sainthood took place. I want to also have you think of reinventing yourself from the body, mind, spirit aspect. And if you take each one of those individually, how do you think it would be easier, or if you set yourself up to be able to reinvent yourself when it comes to your body? Enough sleep. Are you hydrated? Do you get the exercise that, your body needs, and nutrition? Because when we have these in place, these essential kind of foundational items when we're taking care of our body, then being able to change our personality and reinvent part of ourselves is way more accessible for our brain to endure the challenges of taking on change. From the mind aspect, I know that if you've been a listener here on the podcast, you know how much I talk about getting things out of your head and onto paper. We call them thought downloads. And then there's also the self-coaching model, which is the number one tool I use to help my clients and bring awareness to your life. And so doing these thought downloads and models can be helpful on the mind side for the changes that you want. I know that journaling is something that a lot of people find benefit in to actually help them, write down to help them along the way of journey of change. And of course, coaching, having a coach or a mentor, somebody outside of you that is helping you, supporting you, accountability along the way would be so helpful on your journey to reinventing yourself. And then what has you tapping into the spirit? We touched a little bit on prayer and of course, calling on our faith, but what are some other things that just get your spirit in a place that you could then take on the journey of change? I know that a lot of people find their spirit heightened with music, with meditation, when you are out in nature that raises your spirit. And when there's parts of us that we really feel are something that feels kind of impossible to change, maybe it's heavy emotions, maybe you have had some kind of trauma that hasn't treated yet or not quite healed from, we would want to put some focus here, right? Because once you heal or treat trauma or have these heavy emotions that we learn how to process, you'll be more apt and easier be able to take care of yourself, to be able to reinvent yourself that we're talking about today. And the last thing I want to touch on when it comes to taking on any kind of change to reinvent yourself, one of the best sources that has the insight already on what it takes for you to make the changes is to tap into your future self. So kind of go to your future self, someone, let's just say, even a decade or two in the future. And let's say they have already reinvented themselves, changed some part of their personality, and have become somebody that you want to become. Tap into that wisdom and visualize it already happening. What is she doing? How is she spending her time? What does she love to do? What did she figure out that you quite haven't yet? And what's she at peace about? What do you want to ask her? And what does she want you to know now that she already knows? There is so much wisdom to be found there when you can get that future version of yourself super clear in your brain, the one who you've already reinvented yourself and she is there. go there in your brain for a moment and answer those questions that I just laid out. What is she doing? How does she spend her time? What does she love? What would she tell you? What does she want you to know right now? What is she at peace about? What has she figured out? I love that question. What has she figured out that we haven't quite? And that will give you a roadmap of where you can begin to head down today. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up, I want you to remember that you have the power to reinvent yourself and change any aspect of your personality that right now is just no longer serving you. And by cultivating a greater self-awareness, bringing more consciousness to this part of you, by focusing on making the changes, adopting the new habits that it will take to change this aspect, and drawing on our strength from our faith, right? Always drawing on the strength from our faith. You can make steps and become the best version of yourself. And this is how to reinvent yourself, if that is something that you want to do. And I said it at the beginning, but I want to reiterate this and have you leave with this thought. You are capable of mass amounts of change. And if there's any part of you or your personality that is not serving you today, you have the ability to change it. All right, everyone. As always, I am so very grateful for you to be here and listening to the podcast. If you are getting any help and support from listening, I just want to invite you to take a moment to rate and review the podcast. That would be so very helpful and very much appreciated. And as always, I wish you much peace and love, and I will be back here again next week. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. Are you ready to take everything I teach you here and put it to work for your own life? To really learn how to have peace of mind no matter what is happening around you? If so, I'd love to have you as a client. As your coach, this is where you'll get personal and focused time on your own mind using life coaching tools, concepts, and proven life-transforming wisdom, all through a faith-filled lens. To learn more about how we can work together, come on over to danielleteenel.com. There, you'll see how to sign up for a free coaching consult and learn how to get started. Until next time, peace be with you always.